All right, welcome back to Q Source. I'm Blake Anderson, Money Pit, and today I have with us Jared Shell Iverson. Iverson, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this chapter is the Queen. So we would just finish the King. The King is your fitness. The Queen is your diet. And as folks have hopefully started to put together, all the guests on the podcast are folks that live and embody the topic. And Iverson, I told you that Sharkbait kind of voluntold you. He signed you up for this one because he knows you that way. He knows you as the guy who cares about diet, who lives it, who's empowered by it, and who can speak authoritatively on it. And so honored that you'd be willing to step up and share about something that is personal to you. And hopefully through this conversation, we make it personal to everyone else. And so we think about diet, and you can't go on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube now and not see some advertisement for some new diet. And aren't we all trying to find a workaround or, a magic pill? So in all your findings, is there a magic pill to this diet thing?
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone seems to be the expert, whether if they have training or not, on diet, nutrition, fitness. But my wife told me this a few weeks back when we were kind of talking about it. And we try to live by this. It's basically um, eat real food, so something that's coming out of the ground,
Mhm.
not too much of it. And Dredd talks about this in the chapter as far as, portion control is the key to weight control. Um, So not too much of the food, and then mostly plants. So, stuff that came from a plastic bag or cellophane or artificial dyes, that's probably not great. So if it came from your grandparents' generation, coming out of the soil, fruits, veggies, things like that, off a tree, that's generally going to be right what you're looking for.
Nice. I heard someone say something kind of similar. It said, if you can stick to the outer edges of the grocery store, you're in better shape than when you go through the center aisles.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, a lot of this quadrant of get right kind of stems from, we have the DRP, daily red pill. And it's this understanding that, we're going to have these red pill moments in our life. Most of us have some type of crisis or a rock bottom that motivates us to finally make a change. Sometimes it's harder than others. And I know diet for me and my wife, we definitely had a red pill moment. My wife, she was having digestive issues and nothing she did worked, and it seemed to be getting worse to the point where, irritable bowel and all that nasty stuff. And the traditional means weren't working. And so we went the holistic route, and we're the first order of business with a holistic doctor is you got to change your diet. And we did, and we saw immediate results in our health. We both lost like 10 pounds immediately. We started feeling better than we ever had. And and I remember the first day she gets this meal prep, like the list of things we could eat. And we were like, what in the world are we going to eat?
The
Because
elimination diet, right? You got to
yes,
take all the crap away and see what goes from there.
there was no pasta on there. There was no bread on there. There's no ice cream on there. Right. There wasn't the things that were the filler staple of our diet. And I remember it was like, holy moly, what are we going to do? Well, fast forward 7, 8 years later, and my wife is known on Facebook and in her community for diet and for food. So she started posting pictures every meal. Mainly it started during this health crisis of what is she going to cook through this elimination diet. And she became the best cook I know. And now I can't go anywhere without someone asking my wife, what's for dinner? But not only do
Nice.
they know that she posts pictures, but they know her motivation is she found the queen, right? She found a new life through diet that happened because of a red pill moment. So, what's your red pill moment? Like what drove you or drives you still, to have the queen as such an important part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, for me, working in healthcare,
And so
pretty
to let
much
everybody
being,
know, what do you do? What do you do in healthcare?
yeah, I'm a nurse anesthetist, so work in different stages of the hospital, but, was in the ICU, was training, and then in the OR and, OB, stuff like that, doing anesthesia,
Gotcha.
in the hospital and worked a bunch of different settings in hospitals. But through that process and training, basically for the last, 20 years, essentially, you kind of see what people consume, what they put in their bodies, how they behave, and you kind of start putting things together in your own mind, like, okay, if they eat too much, maybe they're going to look like that, and we're going to have some other issues down the line. Arthritis if someone's morbidly obese, and just all the other factors that go into that. Someone drinks a lot of alcohol, kind of what they're going to be into. So I've kind of put that together, and those are some of the guardrails, for my life and my family kind of moving forward with some of that. And, if you, I look at it as you have like this $1 million like racehorse that you have, like you're not going to feed that thing to perform garbage. You got to give
No.
it the best stuff. It's our own
Yeah.
investment. Our health is our best investment that we can kind of pour into. So you're either going to kind of pay now or pay later as far
Yeah.
as, putting good stuff in your body, nourishing yourself well, kind of setting yourself up for success down the line, or you're going to kind of take the shortcuts now and then your health may be suffering down the line.
I mean, what if, you see people and hear it said, you sacrifice your health for your wealth, and you'll end up spending all your health or your wealth to get your health back.
Makes sense.
So really, you're playing the smart route. You're seeing these people who are suffering and say, I don't want that. And so you're able to you see where that train goes. So let's get off that train,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
I
We have
mean,
to make
most of us,
adjustments.
yeah, most of
I
us
say we
don't
have to make
have
adjustments. Go ahead.
most of us don't have that kind of access to people who aren't well like you do.
Right.
So we don't
Yeah, you
see
see it
how
every
bad it
day.
can get. Yeah, we don't see that. You're
Right.
exposed to that.
Yeah, those life and death situations that I see, or just the stuff that's coming in, people who are waiting too long at home or what they're putting in their bodies. It's like, okay, well, let's think twice about that. No, don't get me wrong. Like for alcohol, I'll have a couple drinks a week, but there's people that it's their life and like they're absolutely destroying their life. And a lot of the research out there wants to say that alcohol is good for us. I even thought it was like in college, it was like, oh, this is going to clean out our arteries and it's going to be good for us. But it's like, no, like
Mm-mm.
it's sterilizing your system. Your immune system is your gut basically, and it's just wiping out everything. So that's just one example, but there's all kinds of different things in our life that kind of touch on through some of that.
So as I love how at the beginning you talked about we're trying to make this simple, accessible, tactical, and you definitely did that when you said, "Hey, keep it simple, whole foods, things your grandparents would have eaten, nothing in a package with dyes." So that's simple as far as what we're doing. But you and I know when you're making a change, as simple as that is, it's hard to execute on. And so
Sure.
what do we let's give the PAX a couple tips from our own personal stories about some other things on top of like keeping the diet simple, like actually help us execute and turn this into a lifestyle. Like what advice would you give?
Sure, you can't do it alone, right? I mean, you got to
Yeah.
have people with you. You got to have the accountability. We know that we can't do it ourselves. So if you're married, having your spouse eating the same way you are, kind of buying into that investment together.
Mhm.
And even journaling, writing stuff down.
Mm.
If I'm journaling my diet, and I have a donut, like, or I'm about to have a donut, or like three bagels, or three Cokes, or a liter of whatever, liter of cola. Like I don't want to write that down and put it in the journal and be like, oh, that was 1,000 calories. That was just 80 million grams of sugar. Like I'm not writing that down to look at that over and over. Like that's just not going to be part of it. So sometimes the accountability is writing it down, having people in your life to kind of do that with you, and that really goes pretty far as kind of staying in those boundaries.
I love that writing that down. I would have never thought about that, but you're right. They have to stomach looking at it, and you start to have that aversion to the experience of looking up the poison you put in your body. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, that built-in
Like, oh
accountability.
gosh, why did I do
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I know for me, it wasn't my idea, but my wife's the cook at my house, and so I guess I was the beneficiary of it. I didn't want it. I didn't seek it out. It sought me out, and man, it's been a good thing. I'd say the one thing I would add, and I love that accountability piece. The thing I would add to it as well is what's going to happen if you'll commit to 21 days, 30 days, or whatever, is after the first 3 days, you will have purged all the sugar out of your blood and you will have started to retrain your taste buds. And you will find that the foods that you don't eat much of are so much more flavorful than you thought
So
because the strawberry next to the brownie tastes sour, but the strawberry next to your meat tastes really
right.
sweet. So when your taste buds adjust, you're going to find natural food is so much more flavorful than you get it credit for. It can't hold a candle to high fructose corn syrup or fake
Yeah.
salt. but it's amazingly flavorful. And so I don't feel like anymore. I don't know about you, Iverson. Love to hear what you have to say. I don't feel like I'm giving up anything. Like I
Sure, yeah, I mean
love the
with that
food that we
reset,
eat.
yeah, you need that reset. You kind of need that elimination diet, so to speak, to kind of get those taste buds back to square one. Because yeah, if you're eating gummy bears all the time, you know, you don't realize how bad you feel until you stop it. Like when I worked
Yeah,
nights, I didn't realize how bad I felt until I didn't work nights anymore. Like, it was just
right.
you don't realize what you're doing until you get it out of your system.
It's amazing how we adjust to good things and to bad things and we normalize it. So like for us, like at the beginning of every year or last few years, we got into a habit of doing some sort of elimination diet. We've historically done a Daniel fast, which is just fruits and vegetables and no meat, and for 30 days or 21 days. And what ends up happening is by the middle of it, we've never felt so good in our whole life. Like you
Yeah, for
feel,
sure.
and no caffeine and no sugar, but your energy level is so high that you're like, why would I ever not eat this way? Of course, then the day 30 comes and you have a brownie,
Right.
right? And you erode that and you go back to your old way. But it's unbelievable how good you feel when you cut out all the BS.
So I mean, you mentioned fasting, but like I've dabbled in fasting a little bit,
Me too.
12
Hmm.
hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, try to do it 2 days, try to do it 3 days, and there's a lot of it was kind of a fad for a little while. I've kind of
Hmm.
backed away from it just with my body type and so, the caloric restriction of that.
Hmm.
It's not really meant for weight loss and things like that. It is a good reset. It is great for, anti-inflammatory, kind of getting a blood sugar, kind of rebalanced. And I think all through this talk, like we're not, you know, no one, I guess what I'm trying to say is like the disclaimer of me talking about all this stuff, like I'm not a physician. So like go to your healthcare
Yeah.
provider and kind of talk through this stuff before you just start fasting, because I don't know what medications you're on or whatever. But um, a lot of good stuff, with fasting, kind of resetting those insulin receptors and glucose receptors and all that stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff there. But yeah,
I want to mentioning that. I want to just go ahead and take time to give a little tip, little insider hack on this, and it takes a little explanation. So if you've never done this research, you wouldn't know this, but it may be hopefully it's reviewed for some. So when you're on the sugar train, as I call it, and you have a high sugar diet, your blood sugar spikes and then you have an insulin crash on the back end. So insulin in your body is used to remove the sugar from your blood. And when the sugar's all gone from your blood, your
what's
energy
up?
level just completely plummets. And then you get hungry. You at least you think you're
Right.
hungry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our eating, you don't realize until you get off sugar. A lot of your eating, your body actually isn't hungry. It's craving sugar because the sugar has been taken out of the blood. And so once you start to know that you have this sugar high and this insulin crash, a lot of us
Right.
ride these roller coasters all day long. We go coffee, donut, crash, Snickers bar,
Right.
Coke, crash, lunch, crash, and coffee, sugar, crash. And
Nap.
we're just doing this all day. And we're on a roller coaster ride, and our energy is so up and so down. But when you take sugar out of your diet, so if you do an elimination diet, after about 3 days, all the sugar is gone. And so now you're no longer on this up and down. And fruit doesn't process with insulin the way that Snickers bars do. So if you're
Sure.
just
Yeah.
eating fruits and vegetables and you get the sugar out of your blood, all of a sudden, when you're no longer on that, two things happen. One, you don't get hungry like you used to because you're not craving the sugar. And two, your energy level stays really high and you start to feel really good. So if you're watching and you've never tried one of these, my challenge to you, do a whole 30 or a Daniel fast or something for more than 3 days. So pick a week, 14 days, 21
Yeah.
days, and experience this. Because once you experience this in your body, it will be a game changer as far as what diet means to you. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, even going without calories for hours or a day or two, but staying hydrated, yeah, you get this energy and focus with, your brain that you don't really have before, because it's just all streamlined. And you realize that you don't have to pour snacks in your body all the time. Like you can literally go days without calories.
Yeah.
Like you can only go a couple days without like water and hydration. But obviously like doing the multi-day fast, which is good for some people, like I said, consult your provider, but try an extended fast if you can, because it really focuses your mind and you realize that, oh, I don't need that. My body is made to, spew out some glucose in the blood, and like the liver is made to spew that out. So we don't need that, every other hour of every day, just to put something in our mouth.
Yeah, it's
And to
amazing the
kind of piggyback,
habits. It's
yeah.
amazing the habits we form, and we're addicted to the habit more than we do need the thing that we're craving.
Yeah. And even the hydration piece, giving some of the electrolytes and the water, on my way to work, it's about 30 minutes. I'll have about 30 to 40 ounces of water typically, just to kind of jumpstart metabolism. You're dehydrated from the night, from sleep. And I try to have water before any coffee or anything like that, just
Yeah,
to
me
kind of
too.
get, get hydrated and start to feel good on a natural level, not artificially with caffeine and things like that.
Yeah. So I would sum up this portion of our conversation, and I have one other question after with, um, you won't die, and you will
With
likely
not
feel
eating.
you won't die without eating, you won't die without sugar, you won't die when you change, and you will likely feel better than you ever have before. Now, I would be remiss if I don't link this queen into the topic of the book. So the book it's a leadership development program. The entire Q source method is a methodology of leadership. And I personally really appreciate the methodology. It's the building blocks starting with yourself, and then as your ability to live it out, and then you can lead other people, and finally you're ready to train other leaders to take your place. But I've never read a leadership book that had diet in it, but I so appreciate that it does. And so we should end by just making that tie between your what you eat, how you feel, and your ability to perform and lead others. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess, you are what you eat. It's like, if you're gonna put bad stuff in, you're just gonna get bad stuff out. And I think diet is maybe one of the hardest things to do, or to be disciplined in, just because of
Mm-hmm.
the frequency of which we do it. It's three, four,
Yeah.
5 times a day. It's all around us. People are bad influences. There's bad peer pressure out there. Hey, have this, have that. Oh, okay, whatever. Um, so no, they call it comfort food for a reason. So there's other
Yeah.
avenues to try to, de-stress or kind of handle our anxieties, things like that. That we could maybe try to focus our energy or make it a positive way, go for a run or a walk or music, things like that, rather than just, popping candy and sugar and things like that.
Yeah. I just want to tie back the metaphor that you said at the beginning of the podcast, which is, if you were the owner of $1 million racehorse, what would you feed it if you wanted it to win the race? And here's the thing, guys, you're the $1 million racehorse. You
Right.
really are. And if you take that thought seriously, you'll realize how important what you put into that engine really is. And you'll be amazed at how feeling better, how having better energy uh, will improve your relationships, your performance, and your ability to lead other people. And then, not to mention, the people you're leading, they're watching you.
For sure.
They're watching you. They're watching. They're listening to you. They're sizing you up based on how you live your life. If you're the
Yeah.
sad clown getting drunk all weekend, or you're the guy that is always on the donut, bringing the donuts and crushing them, if they're watching you put on 20 and 30 pounds, like the people you lead are watching you, and
Yeah.
they are gaining confidence or losing it by watching how you live. And you exude confidence when they see you raising your standard with your exercise and raising your standard with your diet.
Yeah, if you're not disciplined with your own self and you can't say no to something, then how can you, help others or be disciplined to your kids or make a comment to, a friend? It's like, well, I mean, what are you doing to yourself? Why can you say that
Yeah.
to me? So
Yeah.
very well said. Great conversation.
Yeah, I love it. Iverson, appreciate you being willing to join me on the podcast. And as I've said before, we'd love to see you at the Q Source tables. You can, if you've never been in person, they're after the workout. So Wednesday morning, you can come to the table at 6:30 after quarantine. Saturdays after the farm, they meet at Summer Moon. And Saturdays after Clarion. Where do y'all meet after Clarion?
We meet at Farmhouse Cafe right in the neighborhood or right
So
on the
even if you
outskirts.
don't hit the workout, you decide you want to sleep in, you got to go to work early that day. You can't, you don't have time to go home and shower, you can still join the Q Source table. Thingamabob came to the Q Source today. He couldn't make the workout. He had to go straight in the office. He came looking spiffy and showered up, but he came to the table. We'd love to see you there. And think about this content. If there is a week that really speaks to you, that's been important to your life, hit me up on Slack. Let me know. I'd love to feature a new PAX on the podcast as many weeks as we can. So Iverson, thanks for being my guest this week on the Q Source podcast.
Happy to be here, and thanks for doing this, Money Fit.
Awesome. All right. See y'all later.
Take care.